Ballybrit. We do want to talk a little bit more about the boxing from the weekend at the moment, though. We're going to chat Katie Taylor in a moment. But before we get to Dillian Whyte a little bit later on, obviously, as you probably can guess, it was Andy who put in the call for us. Thank you very much for that, Andy, this morning. Because like you would have been in the same gym with Dillian Whyte a couple of times during your career?
Yeah, we would have. He's from South London, so he's from Brixton, and we would have been based in Purley. So there was a lot of times when we'd be in the gym. His former coach was Chris Oko, cruiserweight fighter, and good friends with Adam, so we would see him in the gym a lot, and he would have sparred Richard Towers a lot, and and he hasn't like I haven't seen him maybe in 2 years, but he doesn't seem to have changed, like this new level of fame and success. He seems to be as happy and as carefree as ever, and he's turned himself into a really serious fighter now. He's a real he's a contender for the heavyweight title. Like if he gets the right fight, like he fought Anthony Joshua, and it was probably early in both of their careers for that fight to happen. For it to happen now, it would be a much bigger fight, and it would be more. Dillian would pose a more considerable challenge. Even though the first fight, so far he's been the only one to apart from Klitschko, been the only one to really hurt Joshua, and really rattled him in that fight. And I know they're rivals, and I'm not sure if he'll fight again before the end of the year. Dillian Whyte, I'm not sure what his plan is, we can ask him, but I think a fight between him and Joshua again early next year, if the other fights don't materialise that they're talking about, could be a real good fight.
Did you see that result coming on Saturday night, and the manner in which Whyte was dominant for a lot of it?
I found it very hard to call the fight, because I was thinking, Parker, he's quite fast, and he's smaller, and he's busy, and he has good boxing ability, but I could never see him really getting past Dillian Whyte's jab. So I thought that Dillian Whyte's jab would nullify Parker's busyness and activity. And they both were jabbing well in the fight. One thing that Whyte was doing was when Parker early on was choosing to throw a right hook to the body, and he landed the first few times, but then as soon as he did instinctively, or he saw Dillian, which is a sign of a good fighter, he started catching it with his left hand and throwing back his own left hook. And that proved to be one of the most telling punches in the fight, and I think he scored a couple of knockdowns from that one punch. And it was kind of echoed across the commentary that Dillian Whyte wanted it more. And I think that kind of does him a disservice, because to say that Parker didn't want it, I think that Dillian Whyte was just bigger, better. He outjabbed him and outfought him. And maybe he did want it a bit more, but not to take away from Parker, because Parker, as I said before, a lot of people chose Parker to win the fight. A lot of the pundits were choosing Parker to win the fight, but I found it very hard to call. And Dillian Whyte got the job done, and it was an epic fight, epic fight, yeah. Yeah,
the commentary team really tore into Parker in and around rounds 9, 10.
Yeah, I thought they were a bit harsh. When you're sitting outside, it's very easy, and it's very easy to pass judgment. But these guys are landing heavy blows, and it's very hard to tell the effects, because sometimes a fight you can mask those effects, and a punch may hurt you, but you don't let it show, and people outside can't see it, and they wonder why he's backing off and moving away. It's because he was getting hurt, and he was getting put under pressure.
Look, what is Dillian Whyte thinking in round 12 when it's very evident that one more punch would have ended him?
Yeah, well, he'd probably dispute that, but sure. Parker rallied in the final round, and people were saying it was maybe a bit too late, that he should have done it earlier. But if he'd done it early, he would have left himself exposed to being caught with a punch, and he might have been down, his fight might have been over before the end. So Whyte showed another, I don't know if it was experience but he was very quick and very clever, and he held, and he tied the man up, and that's, whatever you might say, that's part of professional boxing, and knowing when to do that, it's a real ploy, and it's something that you must use as a professional boxer at the right time.
Like in general, like for example, from your perspective, what would you have been thinking when you're there and you're like, your opponent is probably beyond the age, especially in fights that you would have been winning or about to win or about to outlast your opponent, but at the same time, you're in the depths of hell at that point. Yeah. Like, what's going through your mind? Is it, like, how do you train the mind to actually just be conditioned to survival and survival only?
Yeah, well, in that fight, Whyte held, but then he fought back. And sometimes that's what you can do. You can fight fire with fire, and sometimes your best defense is an offense and showing your opponent that there's still a threat there. And that's what Dillian Whyte did. He showed that there was still a threat there. So Parker was reluctant to just wade in and go for the finish. And but a thrilling fight and a great end to the fight. But the fight was a solid fight, and it was a world-class heavyweight fight the whole way through.
It was. It looks like the Wilder Fury fight might be on. Have a look at this. This is from Tyson Fury's Twitter account, I think, yesterday afternoon.
Just a quick one. I can confirm that me and Deontay Wilder are in negotiations, very close to being done. Frank told you all on TalkSport this morning. The breakfast show, whatever it was, I'm not too sure, but it is out there now, and I can reveal that negotiations are being very strong for December. We're almost done with this deal, but I won't be looking over Francesco Pianetta. He's going to give me the right fight and the right work to prepare me for Deontay Wilder. I've got to flatten him first, and then Wilder, let's dance.
Right, part of me kind of believes Tyson Fury there. Part of me believes that this fight is on.
I wouldn't doubt them if Frank Warren's come out and said it publicly, and he is. The only benefit to him coming out and saying it's on, that they are in negotiations, is just a little bit of publicity and hype, and I don't think he needs that. So I think that they're serious when they say they're in negotiations with Wilder. And it would be sensational for Fury to step back into the ring and challenge for the heavyweight title after just two comeback fights, after being off for 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. So yeah, the heavyweight scene is heating up, and if Fury can get back to his best, he's a real player. He's probably the man to beat, you know.
Yeah,
but it depends on how he looks. It's a real risk announcing that they're talking to Wilder. It's funny because Frank Warren was on TalkSport yesterday morning, and Tony Bellew was co-hosting the show, and they had this back and forth where they were arguing whether Wilder's camp had actually offered Joshua the $50 million contract to fight in America. A few months ago, there was back and forth when it looked like Anthony Joshua would fight Wilder. Ultimately, it didn't end up happening, but in the midst of all that, there was this it was played out on social media. Eddie Hearn and Sheddy Finkel, it was actually Deontay Wilder. They were going back and forth saying, we've offered you the money, show the contract, and Eddie Hearn was saying, send me the contract, I haven't seen it, and it was this whole saga. Ultimately, the fight didn't happen, but now Fury is going to step in and kind of jump the queue. It will be sensational, it would be quite sensational, yeah.
Like you mentioned the break there, at heavyweight, I wonder, does that kind of hamper you, or does that give you a massive boost, having that 2 years off?
No, well, for Fury, he got completely out of shape. I think we all saw the photos circulating and how heavy he got. He lost 7 stone for his last fight, and he was still completely overweight and out of shape. So that's part of his journey as well. And I thought had he had took maybe 2 or 3 more fights before challenging one of the champions, would probably be the way to go. But if he feels he's ready now, and I seen another post that he put up, he's saying none of these guys want to fight Wilder, but I'm the man to step up. So as well as he's doing it for himself, it's also kind of like a backhand to Joshua and saying that I'll step in and take the fight because you're not ready for it.
Yeah, definitely. Just given how out of shape you felt he was for the last fight, is this Deontay Wilder fight coming too soon for him? Say it happens in November this year. Is that too soon for Fury to be in shape?
He's looking increasingly, with every post I'm only seeing it, he's looking in better and better shape. The clips are, he's looking really good on the pads. He's looking very sharp. And he has the ability to do what other heavyweights can't do. He's such a big man, but he can box and he can move. He almost fights like a middleweight in a heavyweight's frame. And now, it depends how he looks. I think he's fighting August 18th in Belfast on the Carl Frampton card. And he's fighting Francesco Pianetta, who's a big man himself, not the most mobile, but a solid fighter who's fought for the heavyweight title before. So it depends. If he comes out and looks good, then it'll be all guns blazing, and he'll be full of confidence going in to fight Wilder. Fury is a man with he's unshakable self-belief. When he's on form, and when he's I know he's talked about having mental health issues before and depression, and I've spent time with him, and it's sometimes from day to day. One minute he wants to quit boxing and thinks that he's useless. The next minute he thinks he's going to be champion of the world, and when he says he's going to be champion of the world, this would have been 5 or 6 years ago. You really, really believed him. And when he's on that form, when he's in that vein of thinking that I can beat anybody, I don't see anybody out there really going to stop him. You know, he's formidable.
Does somebody like Anthony Joshua have that level of self-belief that can be automatically translated into...
I don't know. He probably does, but he doesn't say it as openly as Tyson. And like Muhammad Ali, and like other fighters, when they're saying these things in public, they're saying it in public, but they're also speaking to themselves. They're kind of saying it as an affirmation and kind of using it to build themselves as well. And that I've said this in public now, I have to back it up, but they're reaffirming it with themselves, yeah.
It's interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one plays out now over the next couple of months, because like after we saw on Saturday night, I do wonder, did the entire boxing world completely underrate Dillian Whyte? Like, is there a chance, and this is just pure speculation on my part, that Dillian Whyte came up against the very best version of Anthony Joshua in the pro ranks? Obviously, Whyte beat him in the amateur ranks, but in the pro ranks, and that Joshua, again, pure speculation, that he could be on an early wane in his career, maybe because of, I don't know what it might be, maybe wane is too strong a word, but peak Joshua was for the Whyte fight.
No, I think he fought, it definitely suited Joshua to fight Whyte at that stage. Whyte was still very much learning his trade, and he didn't have a great amateur background. He's had a background in kickboxing. But, like, I feel if Deontay Wilder and Whyte fought, to me it's a toss-up. Right. Wilder's a huge puncher. He's big. He's unorthodox. But Dillian Whyte is a serious fighter. They call him the body snatcher. He's got great body punches, and some of those shots, like the headshots, they're spectacular and they usually cause knockdowns. But the body shots that Whyte was landing throughout that fight against Parker, that was the reason why he was moving more laboured, because he was probably feeling it from the body shots. His ribs were probably sore and his breathing was heavy, and that's all from that body work. And I don't know. Dillian Whyte's a serious contender. He's up there. He's number one challenger now. He's beaten Joseph Parker, and he's beaten Lucas Brown. There's nobody else out there for him to beat. They're the two. Like, Lucas Brown was an eliminator, and Parker's just been the champion. Who else is there for him to fight?
Yeah, it's true. He will be on the show, of course, this morning. If you're only just joining us, you can get any questions in you have to @OffTheBall on Twitter. You can comment on the YouTube or Facebook stream. We do want to chat Katie Taylor as well. Obviously, another great win for her on Saturday, 10-0 at this point. She picked up a black eye, but you can't really count that out. That's the only thing you can say against her, and it was probably a pure freak accident almost, that mini injury. And you could see the kind of respect that Kimberly Connor had for her afterwards. Like, she was fawning over Katie Taylor, really, and it shows the greatness with which Katie Taylor is viewed within the women's boxing scene. We can see it on screen now. Like, Katie Taylor, you feel that she's edging closer to that super fight that she needs, that there is one or two boxers in the world that can give her that super fight, and ultimately there might be the potential of a fight back home here in Ireland.
Yeah, I don't even know if she will get that super fight, because she's so far ahead of everybody that I think when you see Katie fighting, I think we have to just take her. She's a special talent. She always has been, and she's an ambassador for boxing and for female boxing. And like in that clip, Kimberly Connor says, "You're living my dream."
Yeah,
it's great to see. It's great to see you doing this for women and for women boxers. And so she's kind of filling that role. Now there's talk of these Serrano sisters who are promoted by Lou DiBella. They're Puerto Rican born, but they're based in New York, and they're tough fighters. They both beat Kimberly Connor. And there's been a little bit of smack talk back and forth. And then Katie's retaliated herself, saying that if they won it, I'll fight both of them in the same night. So it's great to see that side of Katie too, because we don't usually see that kind of little bit of a bite back. So potentially those are big fights for her. There's also Dalveen, the Danish fighter.
Yeah.
And then Heather Hardy, I think, is still a good fight for Katie. Not because she'll pose a huge challenge, but because she's a big name in America. and she's based on the East Coast, and that's a good fight for Katie, I think.
Right, okay. Like, because a couple of the names that we mentioned is Rosa Valente, the WBO champions. That'll be a unification bout.
Yeah. The only reason to fight her is the belt.
Right,
and
okay.
I think Katie does want to clean up the belt, so that would be a good reason.
It'd be an easy window, will it?
Yeah. Katie's far and above all of these in terms of talent.
Okay. The other one then is Cecilia Brækhus. Now, this is a very different situation because she's a lot heavier.
Yeah, I can't like she's a serious fighter. She's Katie Taylor without the, I guess, the Olympic background and the level of, she doesn't have the backing like of the Irish people, of like the German people like we have Katie. Katie's a household name here, and I'm sure she's well known in Germany, but outside of Germany she's not really that well known. But she's a serious fighter, Cecilia Brækhus, yeah.
Do you think that Katie Taylor would kind of consider a vast change in weight to make this fight happen if that kind of hype was there? But you're saying now it's probably not going to be that big a hype.
No, it would be the biggest fight between two females in the history of boxing. But it's just there's such a weight difference there. And an age difference, and I don't think Katie needs to go up to fight her. Why risk it? You know, if she wants to come down to fight Katie, then by all means. But I think there's quite a few pounds in the difference. Isn't she fight at middleweight, light middleweight? Yeah, Brækhus, and Katie's only a lightweight, so there's a huge difference there in weight.
Yeah, it's massive. It has been something that's been touted, and of course, as you mentioned there, Katie saying that she would fight both Serrano sisters if they wanted, which is a great line. Like the other, we were having this conversation on the show yesterday with Shane, and kind of this idea of Taylor fighting in Ireland one day as a professional. Like you can't see her headlining a card here, can you?
No, I don't think so. It would be great, and maybe in a couple of years the landscape will change. But right now, boxing in Ireland is not live professional boxing. It's still taking place. There are fights in Ireland, but it's more at the grassroots level. I don't think there's the appetite for big fights yet. But if she was to get, if they can build the Serrano sisters or have a Hardy and build their profile, and in a couple of years get one of them to fight here, it could be a good seller. Yeah.
How much of this is down to Eddie Hearn and his promotion of Katie Taylor? It kind of sounds like it's the promotion of everybody else in the world that Katie Taylor's been looked after in the right way.
He's doing a fantastic job, and like she's fighting very regularly and she's fighting very often, but she has the talent. You know, your talent dictates how fast you can be moved in the sport, especially sport of boxing, and like. She's always been she's always had, from the amateurs, she had that talent and that ability to box at a level beyond what's out there. Her biggest problem is that there's a lack of depth in female boxing and in her weight category. There's 2 or 3 fighters that might challenge her. Yeah. That will challenge her, but I can't see him beating her because she's so far ahead of everybody. Like,
you do wonder, like if she's just come along at the wrong time, she's just been too early. Like, you look at Kimberly Connor's words there that Katie Taylor might be viewed as a legend of the women's boxing game in decades to come, that she paved the way for...
But I don't think she needs a Greek rival. I think we can just stand and appreciate her for what she's doing. And it's not that she's a female boxer. If she was a male boxer doing what she was doing in terms of her skill and how she dominated opponents, she'd be appreciated. All her fights are exciting. Even if she's dominating them, she's never afraid to trade. It's not like she boxes out and gets boring decision wins. She trades, and she gives opponents chances to hit her. And she does take shots, but she always wins. And I think we should just appreciate her for what she is. And she might get that big fight, that big rivalry fight. But if she doesn't, I don't think it's not a black mark on her career, because it's something special. She's the first of her kind, and she might be the only one of her kind. But so we should just appreciate her while she's here and while she's doing what she's doing.
Andy Dunleavy's been in touch via Facebook, I think. Andy, do you think fighting Holly Holm would be considered a super fight, or just for money, like McGregor versus Mayweather?
No, it's a serious fight, because Holly Holm, her background is boxing. She was a boxer before she was in MMA. I think the fight might have lost a little bit of the excitement around it. If they could have pushed it, already, or been pushing it already in terms of, well, I'm sure if the fight gets announced, they'll be highlighting that win over Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm's win over Ronda Rousey, and that was a huge moment for her. So yeah, I don't think it's a Mayweather-McGregor kind of crossover fight. It's a real boxing fight, because Holly Holmes is a real boxer.